And can you tell us a little bit about your role models and who they were and what lessons you've drawn out from them?
Well, of course, from the Church's history, I think the first person I'd like to think about as an inspiring leader would be Hildegard of Bingen, the German abbess. She was a mystic, a philosopher, a poet, perhaps a founder of natural science, managed to found two great abbeys in a very subtle way, managed kings and princes as a woman in the 12th century. So I think there's something about the inspiration of someone who leads in more than one field, almost as though, like a concatenation of gifts that then inspires others and leads to extraordinary creativity. So she'd be a person. Then much closer to home, in our time, Bishop Edward King, the late 19th century Bishop of Lincoln. One of his biographers described Lincoln in Bishop King's time as a bishopric of love. And King was renowned as a loving pastor, someone who had a clear vision for the diocese and for the church, which led to controversy, but he didn't back away from that, and indeed suffered for it. But someone who, with a vision, who was practical, and who drew great allegiance from his own clergy and people because they knew that he loved them. And perhaps most nearest to home, I think, of Charlie Schiffner, who was the head of the history department, which I taught a very long time ago, an inspiring teacher with a very clear view of the curriculum, how he wanted to develop what we were doing, and drawing me and the other teachers into that vision and how to deliver it. And then finally, someone only whose hand I've shaken, but not been closer to him than that, other than the ideas of this extraordinary man, Pope Francis, who is leading the church courageously, seeking to change the culture, to make the church not more relevant, but the church to be more open to the needs of the world, less concerned about its own power and privilege, and much more concerned to be of service. So, in other words, to turn things almost upside down in the way of Christ.
And how do you think Pope Francis is doing that to make that process successful?
I think he does it by the power of prayer, which reinforces, I think, a very clear will and determination, a courage to face inertia as well as I think inertia is, in institutions like the church, inertia is a worse enemy than opposition. How to use gesture to reach out to people that changes people's minds, and he hasn't changed one rule, and yet people feel very differently about how people are made to feel included.